Welcome to the Psychic Holistic Spotlight. I'm your host, Sherry Kachanis, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Josie Way and Ken Demers. Today, our guest is Alex Bering, also known as the Why Guy. Mm-hmm. Alex, tell us why they call you the Why Guy.
Oh, long story. When I was in high school, they used to come up to me and say, Alex, why am I depressed? Or why am I frustrated? Why are my parents breaking up? Or why? Kids. What I realized is if I asked them, well, why do you think? I always got back to the root cause of why they did anything, which got them to cause. So I made it, if they wanted to blame anybody, they had to blame themselves. Uh-huh. Because whatever happens in your life, when I put you at cause, there's no one to blame but yourself. Uh-huh. So they call me the Why Guy just because I always get them back to being a cause of their own life.
Okay, that you got me curious. Why would they come up to you, and did this experience of people asking you to help them put you on a path to do this, or were you already on that path?
It was interesting because when I was a kid, I just loved helping people, and yet I realized that they would always come up to me. And then what I realized is in high school and college, they weren't going to the therapist anymore, they were coming to me. And they were like, "What, Alex, I was seeing my therapist and I saw you and now I don't see my therapist anymore." So I thought to myself, well, I must have something that's in me that's allowing them to answer the questions that they need to answer so that they don't have to go and take the medication or have sleep apnea or have ADD or ADHD. And I was eliminating it back in high school. So, I guess it was a path.
Past life influence or something? I don't know. I'm groping here for...
Yeah. I believe that people don't come to me, they're sent. And...
Attracted.
No one comes to me and says, Alex, how do I have a better life? It's, you've got to go see Alex. So people are sent to me, they don't come to me.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's actually very true.
Well, it is, yeah.
And how did you turn that into a modality that worked, what you do now?
I found out that if by the way I linguistically ask the question, they know the answer. So I don't really tell them what to do or how to do it. They give me the answer, which makes it
wisdom?
By the linguistic language pattern that I use. So if someone was to come up to me and say, Alex, I got a problem, I would ask, well, how is that a problem? So they'd really have to go inside themselves and think, well, how is it a problem? Well, I don't know how it's a problem. I came to you. Well, I'm not going to give you the answer. You got to come up with your own answer to figure out what do you want and how is it a problem? Because people's perceptions, they always come to me, they're like, I have a problem. But then when I change their perception, there's no problem anymore. So how does that happen? So then I went on to bigger and better things and did neurolinguistic programming, timeline therapy, coaching, hypnosis, TFT, which is thought field therapy. So I was just evangelist of finding the best modalities that were out there and bringing them to New England.
I guess what I'm trying to ask is, what clicked that put you onto a formal therapist pathway? Just a realization?
Was there a turning moment, a turning point of some sort?
Okay, so I was 27 years old. I was at the top of my game. I had a fancy car, nice home, and yet I was looking at my...
What were you doing for a living?
I was selling insurance.
Okay.
And I felt that, being a salesman, why don't I just work with the whole family because they're all insurance anyway. But it was deeper than that because I didn't sell insurance. I sold solutions to problems. And what I found is all my clients that I would get rid of their problems, they would buy insurance from me. So insurance was the catalyst to getting me in front of people to help them with their problems. So what clicked is I have all this knowledge and I'm 27, I'm going, okay, well everyone's getting married and engaged, I'm single and alone. I'll go home and write on my to-do list, wife. And then the next day I found one.
Really? That fast?
And then, there's been, haven't you made a decision that you wish you spent a little bit more time making? Hence
the title of your book?
Hence the title of my book, How Divorce Saved My Life. And So I realized that no matter how many challenges and problems that there are, why couldn't I fix my own stuff? Yet I was fixing everybody else's problems.
Because you weren't asking the right questions of yourself?
Well, maybe I wasn't, maybe I was. I mean, it was back when I was 27 years old, and 10 years later, I finally fixed it. I finally figured it out. That's why today I can go in front of my students and say, I have the best life I've ever had in my entire life. And now I know the tools and the skills to help you get to where you need to be quicker, faster, because I've made all the mistakes.
That helps.
Yeah.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
And now
you
it's
did?
do as I do too.
Yeah. Do as I have done and learned from.
I've learned a lot. Yes.
Well, they say our mistakes are our real teachers. They're the opportunities for growth, the mistakes and the disasters that happen to us.
Right.
There are opportunities for growth.
And I say that there's no such thing as failure. You know, when someone comes up to me and says, I failed in life, no, you learned something. Because if I take a fork and I shove it in a socket and I zap myself, I learned not to do that.
Unless you're Ken. No.
Hey, if you want to try again.
He did that for a living.
I was an insurance major in college.
There we go.
But what I want to turn your direction just a little bit here. I think he's one of your past students, Bill, one of our co-hosts.
I believe so, yes.
And he was talking, he was a big fan of yours. And he was talking still is, about your working with veterans. And I think that's worth talking about on this show.
I think that's awesome.
Recently, I just bought a house in Johnston. I'm remodeling it.
Congratulations.
And the next door neighbor, her husband committed suicide from being a veteran. So I guess it's a lot more of it out there than I realized. You don't hear about it.
It's a lot.
How do we get veterans to come see you? Do they go for the VA or?
So there's two things. I'll answer your question. We just partnered up with the Rehabilitation Center in Providence. So we became a preferred vendor. The company that I represent is B2B Advanced Media. So if you go on askthewhyguy.com, you'll get my website, or if you go b2badvancedmedia.com.
What does that mean, B2B Advanced Media?
Well, it's our company name. It's our umbrella, because what we live in, and we live in a media-centric, I mean, Facebook, Twitter, I mean, everything's media.
You do.
Oh, I do, yes.
I don't.
So, but like I said, I mean, it's a title of a company, but underneath it's the methods, modules, skills, and techniques and technologies that's going to fix these people. And the reason why I started to work with veterans is because I got a phone call about 8 months ago from a woman that I know very, very well, and her brother was going to commit suicide that night. So I called him and I said, "What's up?" He goes, "Who are you? I don't want to talk to you." Click. So I just drove to his house. And I walk up the stairs, and there I am. He's in the corner with his black cat, his hood on, and he's 24 years old. He came back with 10 troops, 10 of his friends. 8 of them had committed suicide. There's only 2 left. And I say, "What's going on?" He says, "If you don't get off my porch, I'm going to push you off here." I said, "Cool." And he looks at me, he's like, "Why is that cool?" Well, because that's called an interruptive pattern. So I just wanted to interrupt him. It was almost like smack him in the head and going, "Cool, bring it on. Hey, at least I'm going to get you to move from the black cat corner."
Okay.
So within 15 minutes, he started to feel better. And then after about an hour, he brought me to the bathroom, took his medication, spilled it down the toilet, and flushed it, and said, "I don't need this anymore." And then from that point on, he has gotten better and better and better and better. And now he did a testimonial for us. He's going to other veterans to say this works.
Was the meditation adversely affecting him?
Medication.
Meditate? Oh, medication.
Yeah. Was it?
That's the thing. All I saw a 24-year-old boy that was stuck, trapped in his own mental wealth and well-being, and could not get out of his own way. It was come closer, but come closer, push away. And it's that where if you come in, you better be able to fix it or turn it or change it.
Can I ask a silly question?
Sure.
Well, what is there about people coming back from the combat that puts them in such a negative frame of mind? Negative, destructive frame of mind, maybe is a better word.
So whether you're a young child or whether you're an adult, people have trauma. Whether you lose a job, whether you get divorced, whether you find out that your bank lost all your money, that's one event. And that can be a traumatic event, so that every time you think about money, or every time you think about getting married or divorced, or whatever the smell, whatever the sight is, pictures, sounds, ever be in your car and you're driving along and you hear a song and all of a sudden you just start like, oh my God, I don't know why I'm crying. Have you ever had that experience?
Probably not.
Okay, probably not. Okay, well, maybe the viewers at home have ever had this experience.
Yes.
So it was a trigger. It was the song reminded you of an old boyfriend or girlfriend or some breakup back there then that brought up the negative emotion. So wherever they were, whenever they were, if they were in a situation where they're fearing for their life and something happens to their friends, the unconscious, the body locks in that experience, and that's theirs for the rest of their life.
Unless you disperse it.
Unless we change it, we recreate it, and then we change the perception back there then, which then releases the emotion and the tension so that the body can,
Okay.
then I know it's gone.
Now, let me ask a question. In this gentleman's case, he had 8 friends that committed suicide. That's very traumatic for their family. Do they need work on after that?
Maybe not, maybe. I mean, I got a phone call from the Connecticut shooting. I guess, and I was in Vegas at the time, so I just got back. I guess you guys had some sort of shooting in Connecticut with some police officers and some younger...
Oh, I thought you were talking about all the kids.
Yeah, kids.
Okay.
And the association called me up, and I guess they had some parents that were severely traumatized. I mean, they couldn't even go into their house because the memories of their children were there. Just a sight of a little squeak toy would get them in a spin. So that's what I'm talking about, is the body locks into a traumatic event, and then anything that resembles, it's called the gestalt. So if you, like let's say you have anxiety. If you have anxiety, I can trace that anxiety all the way back to the root cause, to the first time you had it.
So it could have been a traffic accident or something as horrendous as the one you're talking about.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about what you've experienced in NLP or...
I had actually talked about it previously, but I can tell for me it helped to shift my thought pattern from not, because that was unrealized. I did not realize, or wait a minute, there I said it, how easy it is to fall into that pattern. And how we often know the answers, we just have to go within to find them.
Sometimes there are things that block the finding of them, but not just the fears and stuff like that, but maybe it's the thoughts, the previous thoughts, and all around the whole thing. Sometimes it's not as straightforward as a loss, like the tragedy in Connecticut, but that can go back to the first time they ever lost something. But it can be much more. It can be quite complex. Have you found some cases to be complex,
Oh, yeah.
or the
I mean, there could be a mush ball of stuff. There could be anxiety, worry, fear, sadness, anger, and guilt, all in one memory. That's a mush ball. That's like an onion, and you peel back sadness, anger, fear, hurt, guilt, any limiting beliefs, limiting decisions. I mean, Ken, if I was to ask you to go back to your past, could you bring up one memory that would either bring you anger, sadness, fear, hurt, or guilt?
I'm sure.
Okay.
Something.
Okay. Well,
you want one?
what?
I didn't know you wanted one, or are you just using that
Well,
as a...
all right, so go back and just see if you can find one. You don't have to tell me what it is.
I'm just trying to pin something down that's significant. I've kind of led a charmed life. Yeah.
Okay, good. That one. Okay, so where do you feel it in your body?
That would be heart-centered.
Okay, heart-centered. So intensity 0 to 10, 10 being the most intense, 0 being none.
4 or 5.
4 or 5, okay. So what we do is we do exactly that.
Very intense at the time it happened.
Yes. And now over time, if your brain goes back to that time, and then it can change eventually. It can change and lower the intensity. But what I do is I go back and I rip it from a 10 to a 0 so that there's no intensity left.
Well, the one that came to mind was I was 5, 6 years old. My grandfather died. And that was very traumatic for me.
Yeah. For a
I
5-year-old.
didn't want to go to the funeral. I wanted to go to school. You know, I just didn't want to face it.
So what did you learn from that event for you?
I have no idea.
We'll have a guess. Usually when people don't know something, I usually just have a guess. You must have learned something.
Well, I was a small boy.
Yeah.
I found that my brother got upset with me because I didn't go to the funeral. So I found that was kind of interesting to me.
Okay, so
But
that's called guilt.
I was still a little boy.
And then what happens is, so what did you learn about you? I know he was upset, but what about you? See how we just went?
I don't know.
That was the release.
The only thing I could think of is that what was going through my mind was that I have an inner sensitivity that I don't normally let out.
Yeah. So what did you learn? Quickly.
I don't know.
Did you learn that you could really handle anything? Even though that was a loss for you, it was a gain because you learned so much from this man?
Yeah, he was, I find that I have a granddaughter that I'm very close with, so it's kind of like,
Yeah.
probably it was kind of that kind of relationship.
And you
I was
learned?
small enough, I can't remember.
Yeah. But at 5 years old, you learned how important that relationship was for that man, which makes you the grandfather that you are today, is it not?
Oh, that's an interesting thought.
Yeah, it's interesting, huh? So let me ask you, where's the intensity from 0 to 10?
It's less,
Less, give me a number.
one-ish.
Yeah, you gotta have a little-ish.
It's hard to think about, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this is, like I said,
This is all new.
I've led my parents lived until 98, 97, so it's not like I had a lot of losses in my life. All my brothers, well, one sister died after they died, so
Most adults think it has to be, and most adults think it has to be something huge. It doesn't. It can be a loss at 5.
Well, it can be a pet.
Yeah.
A pet loss can be absolutely devastating to a child because they don't understand that death is permanent.
well,
You know,
semi.
they don't know about, most children don't, well, at that age, if they were properly told, they would know that life continues on and there's more. But that still wouldn't make up for the fact that their beloved little friend is no longer there in the fur or fins or
Barks.
whatever, you know, crustaceans, you know, in whatever form their friend was. It leaves a big impact.
89.9% of my clients that come in, the percentage is that anything physiological is psychological. So if they got an itch, a twitch, a scratch, a bump, an itch, whatever it is, a hive, that's the 89.9% that we can get rid of just by neurolinguistic programming, timeline therapy, EFT, TFT.
How long does it take?
Can take anywhere from a minute to 5 minutes to 5 minutes to 10.
How many sessions?
Usually some.
Well, a typical session is how long?
It depends on what they're coming in for. I mean, if you.
There's no typical then.
I had a woman come in to me at a seminar. She said she's clinically bipolar depressed, clinically for 25 years. Gave me the papers and everything. Within 5 hours, None of her depression or bipolar came back. She went to her doctor undiagnosed or re-diagnosed, and said this woman does not have bipolar depression. I'm not saying I cure depression, but that's what happened to this woman.
In that particular instant,
Correct.
the depression was a byproduct of something else.
Correct.
I had
Was
an
it-
experience during training where something traumatic had happened to me as a child, and that trauma was with me my whole life. Even though I went to therapy and I worked with healers and I did all this healing work, unbeknownst to me, when I would get into a place of fear or anger, it was my go-to emotion, that space of where I was when I was a child. And during the training, this stuff that I've been carrying around for 42 years, during the training, I released it. And it probably took, I think they timed that one, it was like 22 minutes. And, but 22 minutes for 42 years
Yeah.
is pretty amazing. And I felt freedom. That would be the word that I would use.
Yeah. Do you find that most of it is something from childhood, though?
Some of it, most of it. But then the veterans, I mean, they're
Yeah,
18-year-old boys.
yeah.
They go in and
They're still somewhat children.
they are. You know, they're shooting people. They're getting shot at. I mean,
Yeah. It's not a video game anymore.
no. So I just got a phone call recently from Baltimore and Washington, D.C. They want to fly me and my business partner over there to work with 5 of their worst vets so that we can...
Now, who's asking you to come?
It's an organization that I can't
Okay.
say now, but because of what we've done in Providence, we're going to go down and do the same thing for, I guess it's the top tier,
Their worst case scenario.
their worst case. Just bring us their worst case, and within a day, we'll get them back to where they need to be.
Now, will you do all 5 at once, or you do them separate? Or you do part of it at
Yeah,
simultaneous?
you know, we have no idea what they have. They're not prepping us. They just want to throw us into what's called a lion den. Just say, here you go, and then we'll work on them.
Now, is there like a recluse section of the brain that stores this stuff? And you're tapping into that to open the door? And
Well,
let
like
it
I
out?
just did with you. Yeah. I open up doors, I give choice, I show them how to look at it from a different vantage point, which then allows them, we do it with people, we don't do it to them. Most
Yeah.
people come in and say, Alex, just do it to me. And I'm like, wait a second, I'll do it with you.
Well, yeah, listening to you talk about it, what comes to my memory was I deal with energy.
Oh,
Okay, I touch people, they get better. You got a migraine, I'll wave my hands over you, it's gone. Couple of instances. I had when I was a student down URI, I made friends with a professor who had like a big lump in the back of his neck.
Oh, perfect,
right?
yeah.
I don't know what you would call it. So I massaged it for him one day. I was working on his house as an electrician. And he called me up a couple of weeks later. He says, for 3 days or 3 weeks, whatever it was, he says, I had the most intense dreams about stuff.
yeah.
And then another time I worked on a woman, she's from Johnston, and she cried for 3 days because she was releasing all this stuff, memories of being in Vesuvius, the town that got buried. She was there,
That's
and she
right.
was having memories of that, and all. It was just
Stores in the body.
wellied up. And, you know, it's kind of like, is this the same kind of thing, I'm wondering? Is it being stored for future trauma?
Well, the body holds on to
energy
it, says,
system?
I gotta remember this so that my body never goes through this again.
You're
You nailed it right on the head.
What is it? I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is we're creating this imbalance in our bodies, but is that extending out and being recorded in a auric field?
Yes, yes.
So that at some point in the future it's coming in and affecting us?
Correct, and then it's reminding us, just like with the triggers I was talking about with the song that you hear, the body locks up and goes, hey, remember last time, guys? We got to lock up because we're in fear that this may happen
Now I understand
again.
what you're talking about.
Yeah.
The body is programmed to learn as rapidly as possible from anything it labels as dangerous or fearful
Traumatic
or
or
traumatic.
Yep.
Fight or flight.
There you go.
Yeah.
Does it also, the other side of the coin, if you have something ecstatically happy or joy, does that also come welling forth?
Absolutely. Yeah, the question is, how much love, passion, sex do you really want to have?
Don't ask him.
Because most people
I'm
can't
told I no
comprehend.
longer
They're
need
like,
that.
what do you mean? Like, be happy all the time? Like, who does that? Well, no one, except me.
Well, my license plate is joy.
It is joy.
It is his
isn't it?
license
Wow.
plate.
Alex, tell us about the programs you've been running here in the area.
So, what I've done since February of this year is I've opened a 2-day free event where you learn the foundation of neurolinguistic programming.
Where are you from? Around here?
I'm from Walpole, Massachusetts.
Okay.
But I was in Colorado, and then I was in Las Vegas, and I just came back because last year in Las Vegas, I'll tell you a quick one, and then I'll go into the training, is I worked on a gentleman that flew from Baltimore to Las Vegas because I worked on his girlfriend in Connecticut way, way back. So he's like, Alex, whatever you did to my girlfriend, I want you to do to me. Just do to me.
Do it to me.
Do it to me. I said, okay, well, I'm gonna be in Las Vegas, you gotta fly here. So he flies out, I do my bish bash bosh, and he's like, wow, I'm feeling good. I didn't charge him. I didn't charge him anything just because, you know,
He flew.
He flew. So, hey, it took me about a couple hours. He said, Alex, if you need anything at all, ask me. So it was that time where they came to me, my organization said, do you want to bring neurolinguistic programming, timeline therapy, hypnosis, and coaching to New England? I said yes. Well, if you want to bring it, it's going to cost you $20,000. Because I had to get licensed with all the boards, I had to get all my certs. I was already certified, but I had to make sure I was going to bring it all to New England, start it here. You know what he did? You know what the man did? Didn't know me from a hole in the wall. He wired me $20,000 and said, bring it to New England. Didn't know him from Adam.
We have a couple of minutes
Slightly
left.
curious
Okay.
why it would cost that much. You kind of lost me a little bit.
Licensure.
Well, it's all licenses and
What kind of licenses would be required? I mean, the state has got licenses for stuff I've never heard of. And
Well,
I'm just wondering if this is
with
that.
Sherry's question is, I not only teach and train people in neurolinguistic program, I certify them in neurolinguistic programming. So once you take our training, you get certified as NLP through the American Board of Hypnotherapy, Neurolinguistic Program, which is thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that are all under this board. And you're under a community.
Before we run out of time, would you
Yes.
tell us a little bit about the free 2-day training for anyone who might be interested in attending?
Yes, July 26th and 27th, I believe, is a Saturday and Sunday. It's a 2-day free event, and it's at 999 Main Street in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, at the Empowerment Factory, which is also known as Gail Aller's Design. So a friend of mine took her company and split it in half, and now we have an empowerment factory that's just geared for neurolinguistic programming and people that want to learn more about everything that we do.
Thank you for joining us today
Sure, thank you for
on
having
this
me.
Psychic Holistic
And thank
Spotlight.
you, and thank you. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
I'm really excited about the master training, which I'm actually attending starting this Saturday.
Yes,
Very
we're
good.
happy to have you.
It's very exciting.
Thank you for joining us.
I find it fascinating.
Thank you.